So yeah, just to recap, we have created our sort of V1, V2 draft outputs. I now have a well-structured context.md file that has all of the different instructions, that has all of our different brand components that I can use now for other documents, right? So a good test to run would be actually ask Claude Code to create an input document for me, writing about a random topic. So it wrote about, test input, it wrote about the importance of weightlifting and its contribution to long-term health or longevity. And I asked it to write approximately like 2 pages worth. Actually, I haven't even read what's in here. So what I can do now is I can go to Claude Code. Imagine this is a completely new document that I want to create. Let's say it's for the same brands, for AT4D, it's the same colors. Yes, it's a different document, but remember we have the context.md file, which is the structured instructions. So I can then create a new document, get it to that sort of 85, 90, 95% done in almost no time, right? So I can write a prompt like read, what is it called? Importance of weightlifting, and then apply the context.md instructions to create. I actually went ahead and ran it beforehand, and I'll show you the output. But one of the things I wanted to show beforehand is, remember in the context.md, in my instructions before, I asked it to do the verification layer. And I want to kind of emphasize the verification bit because it is really important to give your workflows eyes. So the verification in this case takes screenshots from the output and then sees if everything is aligned and makes sure everything is structured well and is kind of visually coherent. I asked it to do 2 verification rounds. So now it's baked into context.md. So every time I run context.md, like in this case, it's actually going to go ahead and do it. So I actually ran this similar command I just said and put the output 5 whole jokes, whatever, right? So what it did, it actually, so yeah, as you can see here, run content, importance of weightlifting, use context.md instruction to create a PDF document, create a new folder. So this took about 7 minutes to create this first draft. So as you can see here, it read all of the different documentation. So it's going to read the context library, right? So if it's the same context library, then there are no changes. If it's a different one, then it might be able to use some other assets in there, and you can ask it to change the assets and the colorway to the new brand guideline or whatnot if you're switching between projects. Essentially, what you have in the context.md is a template for creating brand consistent, well-structured, narrated PDF documents, right? So then you, depending on the context library, you can change some of the more specific components in there. So it created this to-do list, which again is following the context.md, created the output folder, as you can see here in, where is it? In outputs, it created a folder called jokes, and in jokes, it created output. And as you can see, it has the HTML and the PDF. I just want to make sure it actually verified. So yeah, the visual verification pass 1, visual verification pass 2. And then, yeah, this was one prompt that I wrote to run for maybe 7 minutes. And then drum roll, please. Let's see what it did. Okay, this is actually not bad. So as you guys can see, it used the same logo, added health and longevity here at the top. The fountain of youth is made of iron. Very interesting. Actually, I have not even read what is in this dummy document or in the input document, but I hope it's factually correct at least. Structural integrity, building bones, not just muscle. The independence equation, strong bones plus muscular power plus balance equals continued independence. Okay, so the equation that I'd love to live by. Muscle aerobic, the longevity markers. I like that it added some cool icons and the cognitive connection between muscle and the brain. Okay, these are cool icons as well. Add life to your years, not just years to your life. Very interesting. Again, kept the logo here quite consistent. Yeah, this took 7 minutes to make. I think that's the crazy part. And yeah, if this was a piece of content that I actually structured or wanted to kind of play around with a little bit, I'd say this is a good template to start working on. So I'd say this is a success. It only took 7 minutes once we have everything set up. So I'm going to close this window. I'm going to close this one too. I guess what I want to say is just to kind of finish off, the 4 building components of any workflow, any agentic workflow are 1, the LLM and the environment. In this particular case, we use Claude Code on VS Code for the reasons that I mentioned in the beginning, mainly because I can connect Claude Code with my folder system, read and write, and having that integration is quite seamless, quite easy. In LLM environment, we discussed the importance of context windows and how if we want to build and maintain our token limits, we need to manage our context window because that is one of the key contributors of running through tokens quite quickly. And then the second component is the LLM for the job, right? So if you use the more advanced LLMs like Claude Code, Opus 4.6 versus Sonnet, Opus is going to have more token consumption and Sonnet is going to have more token consumption over Haiku. Remember, there's always a trade-off between performance, token usage, and then environmental impact. And I think just being mindful of how these three components can interplay is quite important. We also spoke about connecting or building, structuring your context library, essentially the folder system that sits behind your AI workflow. In this particular case, it was primarily things around input, research, brand sort of guidelines, templates, inspiration, and then some maybe output folder or draft folder for working documents. I think this is quite straightforward. You can fill a different context library for different workflows, and they will look slightly different, but you can structure them as you see fit. We also spoke about tools, and in this particular case, we connected internal tools primarily. So if you remember the Playwright Chromium tools to do the screenshots, we did a few Python tools to build the graphs, for example. In other cases, you could primarily use internal tools, or maybe take it a step further and connect external tools as well. In this particular case, I could have connected it to, let's say, a Slack or a WhatsApp or a Gmail versus MCP. And from my computer, once I've reached the point that I was happy with, I could have sent it directly to Bernard or the team to review. And we didn't do it. We didn't need it in this particular case, but that is something that is available to you. And then lastly, the thing that put everything or brought everything together, and I hope you saw the power of instructions, is having a instructions document and thinking of it as a working document that we build throughout the process. And essentially, once we ended that initial process, we were able to use that instruction file, the context.md file, you can name it anything, it doesn't really matter, to then produce a similar quality output in a fraction of the time, right? So again, when you think of agentic workflows or agents or AI workflows, these are the four components, and this is how they interlink. I think when it comes to thinking about how to apply some of that to particular tasks, again, think of tasks that are repetitive, tasks that are research heavy, tasks that are quite methodical in terms of having a clear process and methodology to create a well-defined output. And then, experiment a little bit. We started with the task. We defined what we wanted to do and what we wanted to get at. And then we spent majority of our time planning, right? And we asked the questions around the persona it should adopt, the process it should go through, the tools that it could use. And that gave us some inspiration that we actually ended up using. And then we went ahead and created the first iteration. And then we iterated either surgically or in bulk. I iterated in bulk, and then now we're going to do the final 5% via surgical edits. And this is sort of a summary of how we got to where we got. And this is your work. This is your first AI agent workflow. Congratulations.